Good evening. A teacher from Swansea says he's still waiting for answers tonight after he was removed from a flight to New York while on a school trip. 25-year-old Joel Meyer, who teaches at Llangata Community School in Neath, was flying from Reykjavik in Iceland to the United States when he was asked to leave the plane. The First Minister, Carwyn Jones, has written to the Foreign Secretary asking him to pursue the matter urgently with US authorities. Ben Price reports.
Can't believe this is happening. This is mental, man. Honestly, I feel like a criminal.
The thoughts of Joel Meyer recorded on his phone moments after he was escorted off a plane bound for New York without any explanation. It was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime school trip to Iceland and the United States. But for maths teacher Mr. Meyer, it's one that he'll remember for all the wrong reasons. Having spent a few days with 39 pupils and 3 other staff members in Reykjavik, Mr. Meyer made his way through passport control to fly to the US. As he did so, he was told he'd been randomly selected for a security check.
They took me into this room. There was, I think it was 5 to 6 other mountain officials. They were all officials there. 2 of them were checking me. So one put me on the stool where I took my jacket off, I took my bag off. So they was checking me thoroughly. Then I had to take my hoodie off. I had a school hoodie on at the time, so I took that off. So they checked me, made me take my shoes off. After they did that, they got a swab and they started rubbing it all over me and then all over my bag.
After he was given the all clear, Mr. Meyer eventually boarded the flight bound for the Big Apple. As he collected pupils' passports, it was then a US Homeland Security official approached him and asked him to leave the plane and return to the airport terminal.
Just being kicked off the plane, not going to New York. Here we go. Surprise, surprise, my bag's already off the plane and now I'm just waiting.
Mr. Meyer was eventually told he wouldn't be travelling to New York.
As soon as she said I'm not allowed on the plane, I've been denied access to New York, I asked her on what grounds, because I explained to her I've got my visa in my bag, I've got every document needed, and they couldn't give me an explanation. And I asked the question more than once, and they couldn't give me an explanation.
After he was taken off the flight, Mr. Meyer then returned to the UK the following day alone. He's since told me he's had no answers as to why he was removed from the flight to New York. Neath Port Talbot Council says it's written to the US Embassy to express its dismay at the treatment of Mr. Meyer. The First Minister, Carwyn Jones, has also written to Boris Johnson, urging the Foreign Secretary to pursue the matter with the US authorities. In his letter, Mr. Jones states that British passport holders should not be affected by the US government's travel ban, which has been suspended, adding, "It appears that both the UK government's travel advice and the UK's agreement with the US government have been disregarded in this instance." He goes on to say, "I should be grateful for your urgent consideration and observations on this matter."
Clearly, we've had Donald Trump's decision in the US to bar Muslims from travelling into the US. And although that policy has been suspended, it seems to be pretty likely that this may be a consequence of that.
Both the US Embassy and the White House have been asked to comment. Back at the school in Neath, Mr. Meyer says he would like to travel to the US one day, but for now he continues to wait for answers as to why on this occasion he was treated differently to everyone else.
Ben Price reporting. A barman has been jailed for life for murdering his wealthy Chinese girlfriend who moved to Wales to improve her education. Cardiff Crown Court heard how 24-year-old Shishi B was killed by Jordan Matthews in a vicious and prolonged attack. The judge, Nicola Davis, said it was the tragic culmination of a course of physical and verbal abuse over a number of months. Nick Palish reports.
Clever, beautiful and much loved by her family back in China, Shishi B was studying for a master's degree in the Welsh capital. The 24-year-old had started a relationship with barman Jordan Matthews. She showered him with gifts, bought him a car and paid the rent on their flat in the Llandaff district of the city. But the relationship became abusive and the court heard he regularly beat her until one attack in August last year resulted in her murder. Cardiff Crown Court heard that Shishi suffered 41 injuries, including broken ribs and a broken jaw. She also had healing fractures from alleged previous attacks. The court heard how a weapon similar to a steel rod was used. Shishi's death is just the latest case in an ever-increasing problem here. In the year ending March 2016, there were 18 murders resulting from domestic abuse in Wales. In total, more than 36,000 incidents were recorded here. However, just over 6,000 cases resulted in a prosecution. Across the UK, the British Crime Survey revealed 1.2 million women were victims of domestic abuse, though the vast majority did not contact the police. Prime Minister Theresa May has vowed to directly oversee the creation of new laws to tackle the problem. The government is now consulting with experts about what should be included in any new Domestic Violence and Abuse Act.
We don't know yet what this Act will be, and we don't know yet whether it will cover Wales within that. From our perspective, what we'd like to see is a lot of work being done around preventing domestic abuse and sexual violence to begin with. So that'd be work within schools around education with young people and children, but also work within the communities to enable women to access support when and where they need it.
In the case of Shishi B, there was evidence of previous attacks and hospital visits for months before she died. Matthews had pleaded guilty to manslaughter, but the jury decided he'd murdered his girlfriend. Sentencing Matthews to life, the judge Nicola Davis told him over a period of months, you regularly subjected her to abuse. The murder, she said, was the tragic culmination of physical and verbal conduct, gratuitous violence to which she had no defence. She said he should serve a minimum of 18 years before being considered for parole. Nick Pallett, BBC Wales Today, Cardiff, Crown Court.
A couple from South Wales have been found murdered in South Africa. The bodies of Christine Solik, who was originally from Mountain Ash, and her husband Roger were found 50 miles from their home on Monday. Police in South Africa believe they were kidnapped from their home during a robbery on Friday. Labour has launched an investigation after complaints were made about the conduct of members involved in a row over changing Llangennech Primary School to Welsh medium education only. It's been suggested a Labour councillor shared media by the far-right group Britain First. Tegwyn Dyfeisian, who's Labour's deputy group leader at Carmarthenshire Council, says she doesn't remember sharing the social media post. A £15 million discount travel scheme for young people that was axed by the Welsh Government has been reinstated. Ministers had been criticised for scrapping My Travel Pass, which gives 16 to 18-year-olds a third off bus travel. More TV dramas, comedy programmes and entertainment shows will be coming to your screen after the BBC announced it's increasing the amount it spends on its output in Wales. But the total falls short of what some politicians and lobbyists have been calling for. Well, let's talk to our arts and media correspondent, Hugh Thomas. What will this mean for TV viewers?
Well, Jamie, think of dramas like Hinterland, comedies over the years like Satellite City, High Hopes. These are the kind of programmes which BBC Wales says there'll be more of once this investment kicks in. So by 2020, there'll be an extra £8.5 million a year to spend from the BBC in London for BBC Wales to spend on English language TV programmes. That'll be added to the 21 million or so which is already spent on programmes here. Now, making TV programmes is expensive, but BBC Wales says there will be a noticeable impact in the schedule from this new investment. The ambition as well is that the BBC won't just be showing these programmes on BBC One Wales or on other BBC Wales services, that at least half of them will make it onto the network, which means they'll be seen by the BBC's audiences across the UK.
And why this announcement? Just remind us of the context of all of this.
Well, Jamie, 3 years ago, the head of the BBC, Lord Hall, came to Cardiff and said that he felt English language programming had been eroded over the previous 10 years. It started a debate, a discussion with everyone from the First Minister through to the Institute for Welsh Affairs, all the media types contributing to say that what was needed was more money and that actually about £30 million would have a meaningful impact. So there's been some criticism today that the £8.5 million doesn't really come close to matching the levels that were spent on English language programming a decade ago. Bethan Jenkins' Culture Committee was also one of those who called for the £30 million figure, and this was her reaction to today's announcement.
Well, I think it has been a long time coming. We do welcome any investment, and 50% increase is something that we will look forward to being spent here in Wales on new programming. But we would say that it falls short of the £30 million a year increase that we wanted to see.
Now, Jamie, the first fruits of this announcement will be revealed the next couple of days. BBC Wales has commissioned 2 new dramas and they will be revealing a few more details about those in the days to come.
Hugh, keep us posted. Thank you very much. You're watching Wales Today from the BBC. Much more to come before 7 o'clock. The seaside and the fun fair have entertained holidaymakers for generations. How Porthcawl is being reinvented.
And some nasty conditions on the way on Thursday thanks to Storm Doris. Full details in a few minutes.
Fire officers say they hope the conviction of a former safety consultant who gave valueless advice will help bring in new rules to regulate the industry. An investigation into Brian Fakir began after fires at charity shops in Pontypool and Newbridge. Today, he was given a 6-month suspended sentence for failing to carry out proper risk assessments at 4 other shops in South Wales. Paul Heaney reports.
Fire crews were amazed no one was killed here in Pontypool in 2014. A charity shop gutted, flats above destroyed. Just months later, another St David's Hospice shop was also destroyed by fire in nearby Newbridge. No one was prosecuted, but a wider investigation began. This is Brian Fakir. The charity paid him thousands to give them fire risk assessments for its shops. Lives depended on his reports being suitable and sufficient, but they weren't. He failed in his duty 13 times. This was a shop he assessed in Aberdare. Escape routes blocked, no appropriate fire alarm fitted. He didn't even record that this basement existed as part of a shop he assessed in Blackwood, never mind any other fire prevention measures.
His Honour, Judge Crowther QC handed Mr Fakir a 6-month suspended jail sentence and ordered that he complete 180 hours community service. He told him, "Your assessments failed to address the most obvious risks. It seems to me," he said, "they were valueless." He also told the court it was jaw-dropping that anyone could set themselves up as a consultant and give fire safety advice without having any formal qualifications.
South Wales Fire and Rescue hope this case will help them in their campaign to change the rules.
It is a vital piece of legislation. The skill sets and the experience required to identify risk, and we're talking about potential loss of life and serious injury in the event of fire. We have to have people qualified and experienced to undertake that work.
St David's Hospice has refurbished this shop, but has also had to spend tens of thousands of pounds reassessing all its properties. The fire service is now urging other customers of Mr Fakir to get in touch.
The Public Services Ombudsman for Wales says he's disappointed that Bridgend Council has rejected his recommendation to compensate a man who grew up in foster care for failing to monitor his savings. In December, Nick Bennett said the council should pay Rob Johnson more than £3,000 by January, but the payment has not been made. Geraint Thomas reports.
Yogi. Rob Johnson was 2 years old when he was fostered, but having turned 18, he's starting to stand on his own 2 feet. His carers had put money aside for him. However, when Rob asked the council for his savings when he left care, there was substantially less than he was expecting. He still hopes that he'll receive the full amount.
It makes my life better. It should have been mine, it's my money, and this is like not been given to me, so it feels a bit let down by the council and social services, to be honest.
I want you to get justice and, you should get the payment that you're entitled to. But
following an investigation, the Ombudsman agreed some of the savings were wrongly used by the council. He'll meet with officials tomorrow to discuss the case.
I hope that I can persuade the council leader that it would be a very, very disappointing message to the people of Bridgend and further afield if they cannot see that they have a responsibility to put this wrong right.
The Ombudsman says he will issue a further special report if the authority don't change their stance following the meeting.
In a statement, Bridgend Council said it takes its role as a corporate parent extremely seriously. The council goes on to explain that, as the Ombudsman has recognised, this case raises issues at a national level and that it would be inappropriate to seek to deal with them at a local level.
The thing about an individual case like this is it often does highlight a crack in the system, and I think that once this case is resolved, then Welsh Government and the Welsh Local Government Association need to be looking together at the consistency of how rights to savings and to pocket money are being applied right across Wales, and to make sure that that's consistent and fair right across the board for all looked after children.
This case may have wider implications in the long run, but the focus will now be on tomorrow's meeting and whether Rob Johnson will get his money or not.
The sister of a Welsh fisherman who died in an accident on his boat is helping to lead a new campaign to improve safety at sea. In a film produced by the RNLI, Iona Hughes from the Llŷn Peninsula speaks movingly about her brother. Gareth Jones died after getting caught up in decked machinery while he was fishing alone on his boat.
He was my younger brother, almost 2 years between us. Very mischievous little boy, but we were great friends.
Iona Hughes was close to her brother. That much emerges strongly from the film.
Knew everyone in the village and the surrounding area, and because of his work on my uncle's fishing boat, he knew various fishermen from across the country.
Gareth Jones grew up with the sea and boats. He was just 36 when he died in March 2014. He was fishing alone when his clothing got caught up in a deck winch. Because he was on his own, he wasn't able to free himself.
And just complete sanity shock, just awful. Just couldn't believe such a thing had happened.
But it does happen, and all too frequently. The RNLI said it launched 450 times to commercial fishing-related incidents last year. Sean Williams is secretary of the Llŷn Pot Fishermen's Association.
I've designed my boat to make it as safe as possible to work single-handedly. Probably half the fishermen on the Llŷn here work single-handed. Fishing is inherently a dangerous occupation. No two ways about it, and I try now to sort of think about everything I do carefully and try make my vessel as safe as possible.
With problems often caused by older equipment, the RNLI is now urging operators to take advantage of an EU fund to improve safety.
You need to come home to your families at the end of the day, and you need to keep yourself safe and your boat well equipped.
That report from Roger Pinney. Tonight's sport now, here's Thomas.
Jamie, it's the biggest sporting event of the year, with 200 million people expected to watch on television around the world. And for the first time, Wales will host the Champions League finals this summer. Before the men's final, the women take centre stage at the Cardiff City Stadium 100 days from now. It kicked off with a choir, Cor Glaneuthwy, staging a flash mob. A previously quiet corner of this Cardiff library was bemused and confused at first. Organisers hope those attracted by the men's final in June will give the women's game a go too. And staging both finals close together, they say, has its advantages.
It makes easy access for all the spectators who would like to join both finals. It gives a media attention also for the women's side. Maybe not achieved always as a set-alone final.
For the national team manager and ambassador for the finals, it's a chance to grow the game here. Jane Ludlow, a previous winner of the European Cup, was forced away from the sport as a teenager. Too few opportunities for young girls.
I went back to track and field for a few years because there weren't many female clubs in Wales. It's grown. We're open to pushing down any boundaries and hopefully growing it over the next few years. And like I say, events like this can only help us do that.
This singer got his hands on the first ticket. Organisers are hoping to sell 15,000, matching the average sales of previous women's finals. At £6 for adults, £3 for children, they're a fraction of the cost for the men's final, where top tickets are £390.
Well, they'll be hoping for better weather in June. That's when both finals, the men's and the women's, will take place, part of a 4-day festival of football, where large parts of Cardiff will be transformed to cater for tens of thousands of travelling fans.
The only British side left in the competition, Manchester City, have just signed Carly Lloyd, the player who won the World Cup for the USA. The likes of Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona are also aiming to make it to Cardiff. Whichever teams contest the final, there's no doubt it'll be a massive logistical and security challenge, staging the biggest sporting event of 2017.
Stay with football, and Newport County 4 points adrift at the bottom of League Two host Morecambe tonight. County are expected to have Mitch Rose available after appealing the midfielder's red card in the defeat at Cambridge at the weekend. To rugby, and George North is on course to return from injury for Wales' Six Nations game against Scotland on Saturday. The wing missed their defeat to England with a leg injury, but defence coach Sean Edwards says he's trained today and there are no injury concerns.
We're looking very healthy at the moment, all around really. Definitely healthier than we was the England week, so we're definitely going to be selecting from strength when it comes to selection time. We're very, very aware of the threat from Scotland. Everyone knows games are won and lost up front, and that advantage line battle will be pivotal in who wins the game in the end.
And the team is announced on Thursday. Jamie.
Thomas, thank you very much. Generations have holidayed by the seaside in Porthcawl, but visitor numbers have declined since its heyday. Now the town's harbour is to get a multi-million-pound maritime centre, housing water sport and exercise facilities, a coastal science centre and an outdoor theatre. Here's Caris Notley.
Riding high above Porthcawl in its heyday. For decades, tourists have flocked to this seaside town, attracted by its caravan parks, fairground amusements and beaches. But in recent years, although visitors have continued to come here, some argue it's a shadow of what it once was.
There was a massive building here, which was one time a cinema.
Victor Davis is Porthcawl born and bred. He's lived here for 82 years, witnessing its ups and downs. Growing up here in the 30s and 40s, he and his friends would take advantage of the high volume of people coming into the town.
And we would meet the train, and with our little trolleys would take the cases to Checo Bay for sixpence. And there was a train every hour, so we were all day Saturdays. You couldn't walk on Coney Beach 1 yard without stepping on someone. It was that packed.
And how have you seen it change over the years?
I don't think it's the same as it was. I think it's lost something.
Porthcawl has a lot to offer, from sandy beaches to a fairground to surf-worthy waves, but it's days like this, it's wet, it's miserable, that really let it down. There's little to do here, which is where a new development just over here comes into play. Cosy Corner, as it's known, next to the harbour, was named after the former Cosy Cinema, which was once here along with a skating rink. The plan for the space now: Porthcawl Maritime Centre, including water sports and exercise facilities, a coastal science centre and an outdoor theatre. Those behind it say although figures show close to 1 million people visit the area every year, most only visit for the day, so the aim is to make them stay longer.
Most people who come for the day to Porthcawl will say they come down just to walk along the seaside and just have an ice cream or have fish and chips and then go back home again. So what we've tried to create is somewhere that people will feel like they want to come and stay and spend money as well, and help the town prosper and grow.
It's the chance to have an all-weather, all-year-round attraction, somewhere that might be thought of as a seaside holiday destination. It's a way of increasing the season for Porthcawl, and it's a way of getting people to see the fantastic coastline in all its majesty during the winter as well as in the summer.
Work could begin as early as this year, with the building expected to open by 2019. A place for tourists to go when the weather's not so kind to this seaside town.
Now, Doris is heading our way. Ben Az will explain all.
Thank you, Jamie. Doris bringing with it some very lively weather as we head into Thursday. Heavy rain and strong winds, gales or severe gales likely. The Met Office has issued an amber warning. We could see gusts of up to 80 miles per hour. Not as bad tonight. We do have some patchy rain to deal with. It's a little bit windy out and about. Overnight, we'll start to see a band of more persistent rain coming in from the northwest, but still some drier interludes in between too. The temperature's not dropping too much thanks to the wind at its lowest around 6-7 Celsius. Now, as we head into tomorrow, we do have this cold weather front just lingering on, bringing with it a lot of cloud and rain from the word go. So not very nice for the rush hour tomorrow morning. Strong winds from the west. We have the rain, poor visibility, and we'll hang on to the rain as we head into the afternoon. The temperatures tomorrow still pretty mild for the time of year, ranging between 9 to about 11 Celsius. Tomorrow night, we do have that rain band for a time. It will clear through. We'll hang on to the cloud, and then overnight, another band of rain will push in from the southwest. Starting to get a bit chilly tomorrow night. Temperatures getting down to 4 Celsius across the Llŷn Peninsula and 9 Celsius in Newport. Still pretty blustery out and about. And then there it is, Storm Doris, a deep area of low pressure as we head into Thursday, bringing with it initially the rain and then the wind as we head into the afternoon. So we do have an amber warning across North Wales for Thursday. Gusts of up to 70, maybe 80 miles per hour could cause some problems with travel. For the rest of the country, we have the yellow be aware warning. So leave plenty of time if you are travelling through Thursday. But the good news is, once the rain clears through, it will brighten up. The temperatures insignificant if you factor in the wind, ranging between 8 to about 10 Celsius. And then once the rain clears through, by the time we get into Thursday night, it's looking dry, turning much colder as we head towards the end of the week. Chilly, but bright. More rain to come Friday night. Looking unsettled for the weekend. Back to you, Jamie.
Banaz, thank you. The headlines again. A heterosexual couple have lost a court battle to have a civil partnership rather than be married. Civil partnerships are currently only available to same-sex couples. Rebecca Steinfeld and Charles Kyden claimed that was discriminatory, but the Court of Appeal rejected their arguments. Tonight's other headlines. A teacher from Swansea says he's still waiting for answers after he was removed from a flight to New York while on a school trip. 25-year-old Joe Helmeyer, who teaches at Llangatock Community School in Neath, was flying from Reykjavik in Iceland to the United States when he was asked to leave the plane. I'll have an update for you here at 8 o'clock and again after the BBC News at 10. That's Wales Today. Thank you for watching. From all of us on the programme, good evening.